As Floyd moved on past the Bahamas and initially moved toward Florida and then turned and began to move northward up the east coast of the United States, it lost steam, went down to a Category 3, went down to a Category 2, and then as it approached us on September 16th in 1999, it approached us from the south. Our concern again was we were very wet. We had already gone through a wet period of time. We just had 6 to 10 inches of rain come down. All the river basins are full. They're at their flood stage level. So our hope and our prayer in this case is that this storm's going to hit and this storm is going to run and come on through. It didn't. As Floyd came our way, it slowed down to a crawl, and not only slowed down to a crawl, but as it was blocked, it expanded in size and eventually put down a rain canopy that delivered between 14 and 20 inches of rain all the way upriver.
Thousands of people were evacuated as Hurricane Floyd closed in on the North Carolina coast. The full force of the storm hit land in Wilmington, North Carolina at 3 in the morning.
Howling winds signaled the pre-dawn assault by Floyd on a deserted downtown Wilmington.
Didn't quite a car wash on the back. Yeah, I think we found about the best place for night.
You don't need one? Oh, there goes the other part. Yeah, I see it moving. The other part jumped up. Come on. Yeah, it got it.
It's just sitting.
Oh, it dropped the whole section. Whole section went back up.
Right there.
But now it's got part of the shed on it now. Yeah, that will make me go now. There goes another piece. I want another section.
Hurricane Floyd, a Category 2 storm, recently hit the coast of North Carolina, upsetting beach tourism and harming business revenue.
This is where a house once stood. You can see the hookups right over there. And over here is what's left of it, a pile of lumber.
Many feared for their lives.
Oh yes, we didn't think we were going to make it. We just tried to. Your adrenaline's going unbelievably fast.
The damage was extensive.
It looks like a bomb had blown up in town, to say the least.
Hurricane Floyd is said to be the deadliest hurricane since 1972, with a death toll of 57. It's also the costliest in the nation's history, racking up a price tag of $4.5 billion. It destroyed or damaged over 80,000 homes.
While the winds on the mainland were less than what forecasters had feared, hurricane gusts, some topping 130 miles per hour, did lash the fragile barrier islands. In the coastal town of Wrightsville Beach, hours of pounding surf left streets clogged with sand and chunks of debris.
But it wasn't Floyd's strong winds or storm surge that did the most damage.
It's water that will be Floyd's legacy. More than 20 inches of rain in 30 hours swamped low-lying areas with floodwaters.
There was a good 1.5 feet of water just coming in through the cracks in the door.
The deluge from Hurricane Floyd flooded rivers, submerging the eastern half of the state.
In eastern North Carolina, a week after the hurricane, at least 35 people are still unaccounted for, and waters are still rooftop high in some places.
Very full. Very full indeed. Logs of livings. It has no bank.
It's been 10 years since Hurricane Floyd hit North Carolina. Some say it was our state's Katrina. There are some similarities and some differences, but both storms have two important things in common. Both caused unexpected and unprecedented damage, and both left an impact on people and places that will last for decades.
It's already hot and dry.
In the summer of 1999, eastern North Carolina was suffering from a severe drought. When people here saw Hurricane Dennis in the Atlantic, they actually hoped it would come and bring relief. On September the 5th, it did.
It wasn't a particularly powerful storm in terms of wind when it got back to North Carolina, but it sure did produce a lot of rain.
Rainfall totals in eastern North Carolina ranged from 6 to 16 inches. Just days later, Hurricane Floyd approached the eastern seaboard as a Category 4 storm. But Floyd weakened as it made a turn towards North Carolina. It was a Category 2 hurricane when it made landfall at Cape Fear September the 16th. What forecasters didn't anticipate was just how much rain would fall ahead of the storm.
I think everybody knew that somebody was going to get 6 to 12 inches of rain with Floyd itself, but the fact that there was going to be another 6 or 8 on top of that before the storm ever really arrived was the really tough thing to call.
It is a rain event, and these are not just drenching rains, these are flooding rains.
20 inches of rain fell on ground already saturated by Dennis.
We've got the worst flooding we've ever had in a storm.
Creeks and streams began to overflow their banks.
And it just started to grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where eventually you had a bunch of different creeks and streams that all merged together.
The water's supposed to come up another 6 feet.
Rivers rose to record levels. The water began flooding homes.
I've been there 30 years and it just breaks my heart.
It started covering secondary roads and interstates. Some counties were nearly 70% inundated.
The bottom line is, eastern North Carolina became pretty much a lake.
Floyd killed 52 people in North Carolina. Most of them drowned as they tried to flee to higher ground in their cars. More than 87,000 people registered with FEMA as storm victims. The floods destroyed about 8,000 homes and damaged more than 67,000. About 12,000 businesses were damaged. The flooding caused about $6 billion in property damage. It halted agricultural production in eastern North Carolina, causing more than $1 billion in farm losses. The floods killed nearly 3 million chickens and turkeys and more than 30,000 hogs.
There were people that lost their whole herds.
There were environmental losses too. Floodwaters were contaminated with human waste, hog and poultry waste, and fertilizers.
There was so much material washed into the Neuse and the Pamlico Sound estuaries that it created a condition called hypoxia, where all the oxygen was used up. Of course, that kills all the fish that are trapped in that area and anything that's attached to the bottom.
Scientists are still unsure about the long-term impact of residue from gasoline, oil, and chemicals that may still be on the bottom of Pamlico Sound.
The weather may have only lasted a couple of days, but boy, the impacts just went on for a long time.
Next, the long-term impacts on communities across eastern North Carolina.
It's probably a thing you may never totally recover from.